Hello, everyone. Domenic Rinaldi here, and I'm being joined by a very special guest today, Doug Sandler from the Nice Guys on Business podcast and Turnkey Podcasting. Doug, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Dominic. Thanks for having me here. This is a really valuable service that you've been offering to your community. So I appreciate being a part of it. Thank you.
Hey, Doug, thanks so much. Look, you and I have known each other for a while now. I really respect what you guys have done in your business. And I know that you've run your business for a long time virtually.
Yeah.
And at this time where we're reading in the paper every day how people are trying to figure out how to run their businesses virtually or their teams virtually. You guys have been doing it for a long time, really successfully. And I thought you could really share some valuable insights with our business community on what you guys do and what's worked for you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm happy to share. As a guy that came from the live events world in entertainment, I mean, up to 2013, had I not made that transition in 2013 and up to today, man, I'm looking at the live events business, all of my friends that are still in that business, and they're just literally sitting at home right now waiting for this poison to lift. And once it does, they'll be back in business. But in the meantime, some of my buddies are losing, $20,000 to $50,000 every month that their doors are shut, and they're still paying payroll. I don't know how long they can keep going at that level. So I am glad I made the transition over to the online world, and I'm happy to share some of that expertise with your community today.
Yeah, and you guys have run a really successful business. You have a tremendous podcast, Nice Guys on Business, with an unbelievable following. And then you, along with your partner, Strickland Bonner, started Turnkey Podcasting to help other people learn how to podcast. And truth be told, that's how I got into this. And you have been an invaluable resource for me and even a partner, I'd say, now a friend. And so I know you have some tremendous insights to share. So let's start with, what are some of the best practices that you and Strickland bring to your business every day to manage a remote workforce?
It's an interesting question, because as I think about what we do with our audience on the Nice Guys on Business and where the success has lied there, it really is a matter of engagement. So if you're engaging your audience and using a podcast, engaging your staff, especially in these times when people need to be not held accountable, but when people need to be comforted and there need to be some sort of empathy and compassion for what's going on in their lives. Their lives have been changed and turned upside down as well. If you have basically a face-to-face community right now, somebody that has a team or a staff, or most of your customers, if you can't go visit them face-to-face, how else do you help them? I mean, virtually, it's impossible unless you have technology on your side. So for us, yeah, engagement is key, and we use a platform like Zoom, and there's a bunch of different ones that you can use for for face-to-face communication, whether it's Skype or Zoom or GoToMeeting or any of those. But individual video, because you got to be able to see eye to eye with somebody to connect with them. I would say that is probably one of our best tools that we use to keep that staff engagement going.
Yeah, and as you and I were talking, I've implemented in my firm now something that I call the team huddle every morning. So 9 o'clock every morning, we're getting in a team huddle, and it's a quick 30 minutes, but to stay in touch with each other. But you were also mentioning to me that you think it's critically important to make sure that you maintain a one-on-one connection with your employees as well. Don't just assume that group Zoom meeting is going to make everybody comfortable, because some folks are willing to speak up and others aren't, I'm sure. And you were talking about how important it is to have that one-on-one connection.
Well, it's a part of our daily practice. Because we're a remote company, we have people all over the country that do this. Now, we only have a small team. There's 10 of us that are on our team, and your son being a new addition to the team, as a matter of fact. I've never met your son, but what's interesting is we do this stuff virtually. So yeah, the team meetings once a week that we've continued those for the last many years. We've had those as a part of our regular, MO. For us, even more so now with our clients, that face-to-face one-on-one kind of like this is essential, and it really does help. There are many, you said it right on the nose. Most people in a group environment aren't willing to share something that that pains them, but in a one-on-one face-to-face environment like you can get on a video call, they're much more likely, with especially someone that's their supervisor or team leader or manager, they're willing to share a little bit more just because you do have that connection through Zoom. And you don't need the fancy microphones or anything.
Yeah, right.
You can use the built-in microphone that you have on your
Perfectly fine.
computer,
That's
and
exactly right.
totally fine. Don't worry about how the technology works and how it's put together. It's more of just the idea of having it, knowing that you're accessible, maybe even doing it. So here's an idea that I just thought of, but maybe even having it so if you have two monitors or a big monitor that you can put your screen on the lower side, maybe just leave your Zoom room open the entire day. So if any staff member wants to just jump into this link, they can jump in at any time, even if you're in the middle of calls, and you can have a do not disturb on it for a moment. But when you are available, open up that link so that it's kind of like being in an office where somebody says, hey, do you got a minute? Can I talk to you? And sometimes that is just all they need to know is that you're there and you're right there immediately if they need access to you.
Right. That's a great point. Doug, let's shift gears a little bit. How about business owners and even, team leaders and managers who are used to communicating with their clients at conferences, or they even put on large training sessions for clients or prospects?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do, if you're used to doing business that way? And we know that there are virtually no conferences going on right now.
Right.
So, do you have some tools in mind that people can use there?
Well, the first thing I would recommend is do not cancel your conference. I mean, for a couple of reasons. Number one, the people that have committed to being at your conference, that was already marked on their schedule. So that timeline is already blocked off for them. Use that time to communicate with them through a number of different technology pieces. Also, the sponsors that have committed, if you just reconnect with the sponsor, you can say, hey, we've just moved our entire conference virtual. You can use a platform like Webinar Jam, where instead of everybody getting on a Zoom call where everybody has the opportunity to speak, it's only one communication going from you to your audience. They can ask questions in the chat box, and you can promote them to a panelist if they want to ask a live question. But use your same speakers. Have your speakers come on. Send them the technology. All of the money that you think that you're losing, you could recoup that, or you could actually salvage a lot of it if you just move it to an online meeting. Send them the $50 or $30 microphone so that they sound good, just like they're in the front of the room. If you have 20 speakers, man, it would cost you $600 to send everybody, an inexpensive microphone to make the conference still happen. Many of those sponsors will still connect and want to help contribute to the cause of this conference. Your attendees will love it. It's great communication. You can still make offers in something like Webinar Jam. It's a very easy format. There's more follow-up that you can do. All of the things that Webinar Jam or something like Webinar Jam, there's GoToWebinar, there's Zoom Webinar if you're already familiar with the technology, but a specific webinar platform like a Webinar Jam is great because of all of the things that you can surround this webinar with. And I think it would be a valuable way to continue on having that conference. And I know many of your speakers, they're all sitting home right now. They would love to still have the opportunity to do this. And maybe you could either renegotiate your rate with them, or maybe you could say, this is something that we're doing to help expose your message to our audience. You don't have to leave your house, so we're not paying for a plane ticket anymore. I mean, there's a bunch of different ways you can negotiate it with them. But I would not give up on the idea of having a conference just because you can't go there live. Yes, it's a change of environment, but it does give you still an opportunity to educate the people that were coming to the conference anyway.
Yeah, and as somebody myself, being a technology neophyte, if I can do this, anybody else can do this. It really doesn't take much. You just have to give yourself a quiet space, and the technology is easy enough to figure out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are a bunch of trainers that can teach you in quick order. And again, another business that has cropped up just in the last couple of weeks alone are people that understand how to use this technology. They've been selling it all along to their clients, but now they're really focused on how do I make it as easy as possible for the neophyte to get involved in this without feeling overwhelmed, because they can manage. I know there's companies like there's a company called Partners out of Columbia, Maryland, and this is exactly what they do. They do video, webinars, web conferencing, and they make life easy for you. It's plug and play for them.
Awesome. So, Doug, let's move over to podcasting, because I know you're a big proponent of how you can leverage podcasting in your business as a way to stay in front of your clients, actually get new clients. maybe talk a little bit about how business owners through this crisis could be leveraging podcasting.
Yeah, and what's interesting, Dominic, is it goes far beyond just the business ownership side of things. Let's say there's an association that's listening to this, or in your community. Associations can continue to educate their population and their membership and all the people that are on their staff using podcasting as an educational tool, whether it's an audio podcast or a video podcast. You can record, you can share, and you can send a link through an email campaign that you have to all of your membership. So associations certainly aren't eliminated from that as well. From a business ownership perspective, it's a great prospecting tool because you have the ability to grow a community quickly. It's also a great business development tool in that you want to align yourself and talk to people that are potentially customers of yours and you can sell your services to. Why not just put that person in the guest chair? So don't think about it as, man, I can't go out and meet people, or getting on the phone is going to be impossible now because everybody is so busy. Set it up. If you build a podcast, you literally can build a podcast and launch one in a weekend. So if you build a podcast in a weekend, you have somebody sitting in that guest chair, you're asking them the same questions you would be asking them on a sales interview anyway. So you're just converting that sales time to a guest interview. So that's another way that you could do it. Education, build community, build influence, make money. Podcasting really is a way to do all of those things. You just have to understand what your strategy is when you get started in it. But it is a very simple thing to do, and people can go through, they can look up, free software on Google to launch a podcast, or they could use a company like ours, which is for a fee that we walk them through the process as well.
And I have a friend who I know is looking at doing podcasting as a way to educate his existing clients, case studies, how you might use the technology or the service or the product, just, a way to really stay in touch with his overall community, not even just as a sales tool.
Well, I think today, really people do understand the fragile nature of business, and if you're not diversified, not just in the type of business that you do, but the way that you do your business, you see everybody was caught flat-footed here. And I'm not saying that this is an event that we could have ever expected, anticipated, or being thrown into, but it's interesting. People don't like to move until they are forced.
Sorry about that, folks. We just had a slight technical glitch there.
All a part of the online world, right?
Yeah, welcome to the online world. So, Doug, we were sort of wrapping up with, podcasting as a tool.
Right. And so everybody just keep in mind that nobody expected to be caught flat-footed here, but the problem is that most people, unless put into an environment where they have to shift, they're not going to shift. So right now, everybody's looking at this. I must shift a lot of the things that I'm doing to be able to understand and embrace a little bit more what technology is all about. And whether it's podcasting, webinars, Zoom communication software, any type of CRM, anything that is involving technology and online courses, all of that stuff, it's time to take a really close look at these things as a way to build your business in the event that something like this happens again. Don't get caught flat-footed. Whether it's an emergency or whether it's just a blip on the radar, you must be in a position to be able to understand that that we are in fragile times, and in order to advance beyond the fragile times, let's all just be ready for this. So have your tech ready to roll.
Yeah, great points, Doug. Hey, Doug, if anybody wanted to get in touch with you directly about any of the points that we talked about today, and in particular the podcasting, how could they reach you?
Just it's Doug at turnkeypodcast.com. I'm happy to answer questions or just jump on a call if somebody wants to know how any of those things. It doesn't have to be podcasting. It'd just be, hey, can you teach me about Zoom or what I need to know? I can put them in touch with the right resources. Feel free to reach out to me at Doug at turnkeypodcast.com.
And let me tell my community that Doug really means that. He is a tremendous individual. He's willing to help anybody, and he's got an unbelievable Rolodex. So, Doug, thanks so much for being here today.
Domenic, thanks. And you're doing for a guy that's new in the technology space, man. Domenic, you're doing great. You're bumping people on and off Zoom, and you're doing great. Technology is your friend. I know. I'm
trying. So everybody out there in the community, if you or anyone you know has information or resources that you think can be helpful to business owners during this crisis and can help them, please reach out to me. We'd love to get that content out to them. You can reach me at drinaldi@sunacquisitions.com. Please stay safe and healthy, and thanks for listening in.